Hi, I'm Dr. Charlotte Sharfin, and today I'd like to tell you a story. It's a story about faith. It's a story about how I actually found my own faith through a very special woman. I like to tell stories about my patients in the emergency department, and this is kind of a roundabout way of one because she wasn't directly my patient. She was actually my best friend's mother. And this woman actually taught me what it really meant to have faith, to feel it deep inside. And so I just want to share a little bit of that story with you. You see, I got a phone call from my best friend who said that her mother was being taken to the emergency department that I used to work at in South Carolina because she was having indigestion, chest pain. And she was, of course, very, very concerned and asked me what she should do. And I told her, I said, you know what, whatever they do, do not let them send her home. I know your mother. I know she downplays everything, just like every other woman I meet in the emergency department who has chest pain. And this is her heart until they can prove that it's not. And that was my advice to her. And it was about 5 minutes later that I got another message. And the message was, Charlotte, my mother died in the ambulance bay. Her heart stopped. They had to shock her. They've had to shock her many times. She's on the way to a cath lab. And I knew what this meant for my friend, and I knew what this meant for my dear friend Lana, and it wasn't good. And I was able to speak to the physician that had taken care of her, and he said to me what I would have said to any family or friend. And it was, you know, she's got a complete blockage of her LAD, also known as the widowmaker. And her heart went into many arrhythmias, and she got no blood flow to her heart or her brain for a prolonged period of time. We got her back, but there's very little hope. I listened to what he had to say, and I knew that he was being straight with me, which I appreciated. But there was something inside of me that honestly, I didn't know why, because it went against everything I had been taught medically, but I just didn't think that was going to be her outcome. And so she did make it out of the cath lab, and they had to put her on an ECMO machine, which I didn't even know that hospital had. I'd only seen it used in like neonatal units. But basically it was keeping her alive, but they didn't think it would last very long. And somehow they were able to get her to the Medical University of South Carolina. She had probably the best team possible, the doctors, the nurses, everyone. And again, they gave my best friend very little hope that they actually put her mother on a heart transplant list. She was kind of at the top because her heart had been so stunned, it just couldn't function anymore by itself, even though they had opened up the blockage. And they didn't know if her brain would function. She was now in a coma. And so, of course, my friend being devastated, I went to see her, and I went to see Lana, and I took something with me. I took a little heart rock. It had been given to me by a very special woman in a really, really tough time that I was having, and I knew she had blessed it and loved it, and I had rubbed that rock, and I had gotten through that time and passed that rock on actually to my daughter. And I told her anytime she missed me when I wasn't home because I was away working, to rub that rock, and she'd feel my love. She'd feel all the love that was in that rock. And so she wanted me to give that rock to Lana, and I just, for some reason, felt like it needed to be in her hand. I thought she needed to feel all the love, which I know she did, around her, but to be filled with the love of a little child just seemed appropriate. So I went and I saw her, and she didn't move, and I saw all the machines she was hooked to, and how bloated she was. She didn't even look like herself anymore. And I placed that heart rock in her hand, and I talked to her, and I told her how much I loved her. I told my friend how much I loved her, and I listened to my friend cry and beg and plead, and I heard her tell her mother that if she'd just make it through this, she'd give her a grandchild. She was bribing her. And so I left and I went on my way down to Florida, actually, and I got another phone call. Things were getting worse. And I still, through all of this, kept having this feeling. I hated to even tell my friend, but I kept saying to her, Heather, I don't know why, but I think your mother's going to pull through this. There's just this feeling I have. It goes against everything I've been taught, but I believe she's going to survive. And about 24 hours went by, and I got another call. And the doctors had called her in the middle of the night to the intensive care unit to say goodbye. That everything that they were doing, all the medications, all the machines, nothing was keeping her alive, and she was beginning to crash. And this time they just didn't think she would survive another cardiac arrest. And so my friend went to tell her mother goodbye. And I wasn't there, but I remember what she said to me. She said, you know, I told my mom it was okay. I had been begging for her to stay, but I told her it was okay to go, that I was going to be all right. And then something happened. Her heart took over. It started working again on its own. She actually got pretty much all the function back that her heart needed. She was taken off a transplant list, and she woke up. Not only did she wake up, but she was functional. She could talk. She could walk. It took a lot of rehab, and she did lose her leg because of infection and complications from being comatose for 3 weeks. But Lana every year walks in the Heart Walk to bring awareness to heart disease, especially in women. And I am so proud of her, and I'm so grateful for her because she gave me a gift. She gave me a gift of faith and knowing what it felt like inside, even when it seemed impossible. The odds seemed completely against her. And I've learned how to hold on to that faith since Lana had this experience. When I'm going through tough times, I just remember her, and I remember what it feels like, and I remember that there is something much greater than us that is us. And even when we don't understand everything that's going on in our own lives or this world, we can look to our faith. And so I just ask that you remember Lana anytime you're struggling. And if you want to support her, it's on my Facebook page, Dr. Charlotte Newman Sharfin, her site, where you can donate to her Heart Walk. And I'll be doing that, and I'll be rooting her on. Thank you so much.